Hey there folks, welcome to this video, and here I'm going to be talking about the Autosport Top 50. This is a feature done by the publication every year, talking about the top 50 drivers across realms of motorsport, this year covering 15 different disciplines. You can check out their full list in the description below, and I would urge you to, because in terms of how I'm going to be talking about this, I'm going to be talking about this in terms of points of what's relevant to me. So I'm not necessarily going to be talking about it in terms of places. For example, I'm going to start talking about someone relatively in the middle of the pack. Fernando Alonso, who was P19. Now, I don't believe Alonso should get a P19, though typically that's going to incur a lot of wrath. Mind you, I am the person who a few years ago did a video called Is Fernando Alonso Overrated, which still occasionally picks up views from time to time. In their pros for Alonso, they talk about how he was the WEC champion and he was a Le Mans winner. Again. But in the profile, they talk about his drive at Daytona, which I think is probably the standout thing for his season. Because, well, the only times that Toyota didn't win in the WEC last season was because they were, well, cheating. If you're a rallying fan, you remember 1995, they were, well, Toyota. But Alonso is always quite a divisive figure, because even though I think he's overrated, in some regards, I still believe he's a fantastic driver. I believe he should be in the top 30. But I think people give him too much praise, especially in some areas, because he has always been a belligerent personality, quite outspoken, and it means that he's gotten a lot of praise for it. But it's also meant that it's set back in his career in certain ways, like Honda refusing to work with him, though he's still looking at doing an IndyCar to try and get the Triple Crown. And I have a feeling that people are searching for comparisons to Alonso when they're trying to set a benchmark, when really I don't think they should. For example, the person right behind him in P20, quite fittingly given his standing in, well, F1, was George Russell. George Russell was the only person in F1 not to get a point this season. Though really, the main reason why Kubica got a point was because the Alphas got disqualified in Germany. And I feel like he fell down the order because, well, his season wasn't too great, because the car wasn't too great. And he did show some skill. I mean, he aced qualifying record against Kubica, much like Alonso had done against Van Dorn. But I don't think that that's enough to turn around and go, yeah, he's 20th. Especially when somebody else who was quite high up last season, Pierre Gasly, has dropped all the way down to 50th. I don't think that's particularly fair on Pierre. I mean, I know he had a bad first half of the season, but the second half he turned it around. And especially with his performance in Brazil, impressive P2, his first podium, and the first and only P2 for Toro Rosso, because they're being renamed AlphaTauri next season, but also their second podium of the year. I think Pierre should have been much higher up. I think Russell should have been a bit further down. I think, for example, as well, P31 shouldn't be where Hülkenberg is, especially when Kimi Räikkönen is P37. Because Hülkenberg was 14th in the standings with a best finish of 5th, as Autosport claim. Meanwhile, Kimi was 12th with a best finish of 4th. Kimi still showed his skill. He still showed that he was able to deliver fine results to the car that was supposedly in the midfield. Hülkenberg had some good race starts and early phases, but started to fade away later on in the races. I mean, he could have gotten a podium in his home race in Germany, but he went off. I don't think somebody who does that should be in P31. I mean, you could look at Vettel being in P24. Surprisingly, Vettel's thing is only 8 lines long. But I think the idea is most people kind of know why. Now, there's one thing that I've kind of omitted, which I'll put up right at the end so that the motorsport fandom doesn't immediately cancel me. So I'll put in a couple more quick points. Guerreri and Micheliz in 48th and 44th is a bit odd, because they're a bit low down, and to be fair, tin top drivers don't fare too well. Turkington's only 43rd. The World RX competitors, Backroad and Hansen, were 40th and 39th. I think they should be a bit higher up, but I think them both being so closely matched is a good thing, because they were over the course of the season. I think, for example, Albon and Lando got their places quite right. I think Vettel P24 is a fair assessment, but only if Alonso was further down the order. I'm surprised that Bottas was 12th, given that 5th was Sainz, 4th was Leclerc, and 2nd was Verstappen. Because, well, he still had a brilliant start to the season. And he really did. And he had quite a decent end to the season as well. Lewis Hamilton getting first isn't a surprise for me. He's a 6-time world champion now. And honestly, I think it's quite likely he'll get the 7th. And even though I know people will be critical, going, oh, he's in the best car. He may be in the best car, with the best team, and the best fans. But he still showed some impressive skill this season. I really think he did. Hungary is an example of that. Sure, it was the team that picked the strategy, and Lewis wasn't too happy with it. But he managed to make it work, and he managed to deliver quite an astounding victory, and that's one of the things I really liked about this season in F1. I think, though I wouldn't put Lewis at the top, because I would have put either Verstappen, who finished second, or Oyt Tanak, who was third, at the top, I could understand why. Also talk about the WRC. I don't understand how Neville could be 11, though it is his driver number. OJ could be 7, though he is picking number 17 because, well, people think that it's because he's going to go for his 7th world title and be number 1 7 times. And then Oyt Tanak could be 3rd. Especially when Ogier arguably had a tougher season than Neville, not just because of the car. And he finished 3rd in the title in the end. Because Ogier made a couple more mistakes that we usually wouldn't see from him. I mean, I'm thinking Sweden and Sardinia. Neville had a few mistakes as well like that. I'm thinking Monty and Chile. But even after Chile, he had an impressive form for the remainder of the season. After such a massive crash, I think he should have been higher up. I do think he should have been above Ogier. Well, I'm going to get to the point now where I'm going to talk about the most annoying omission from this list. Well, the most annoying for me, at least. Which is why isn't someone like Jamie Chadwick up there? Jamie Chadwick was shortlisted for the BRDC award. She was a W Series champion. She's a massive ambassador for women in motorsport. And her battles against drivers like Biska Visser were impressive. The W Series was fantastic. But yet, the top 50 drivers are men. I don't understand this. I really don't. It's something that really annoys me, because we're talking about things like the W Series, and Autosport has been praising the W Series. They've been praising how Jamie Chadwick's gotten a development role at Williams. But really, they're not going to honour her with a top 50 position. Is it because it's a brand new series? I don't know. I'm not going to accuse the editors and writers of Autosport of being sexist or overlooking the women-only category, because I think that would be unfair, because I don't really know who the team was that made the decision. But I do think the W Series was overlooked, and they had some really amazing stories for where people come from. I mean, there was Emma Kymäläinen, who came back after starting a family. And when she came back, she finished 5th in the standings. I think that's an impressive story to talk about. Or Jamie Chadwick talked about how there's a problem with funding in motorsports and she can't get the sponsorship to do something like a proper World F3 campaign or an F2 campaign. And she has signed a development with Williams, and I really hope that Williams will do something to help develop her and get her into something like F3 or F2 or really F1 ideally. But Autosport overlooks this. They don't really think about this, and this is the thing that really annoys me about this list. Because all of the points in here, Alonso being much higher up than he should have been, Gasly being way too low down the order, an onus on F1 drivers in comparison to other sports like the WRC, Formula E even, with them getting 10th, IndyCar, the IMSA, the NASCAR, the Tin Tops. The fact that there isn't a woman on this list, it really does annoy me. It really does. I mean, hopefully 2020 is going to be a bit different. Hopefully, new decade, new vibe. And hopefully, a woman in the top 50. At least. We still have a long way to go in motorsport, but I think we can do it. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, even if you don't agree with me, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps me get my views out there. And if you didn't agree with me, make sure to let yourself be known in the comments down below, but please refrain from any kind of abuse because I probably won't respond to you. If you did enjoy this content and want to see more kind of motorsporty content or sim racing content or just general content from me, hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified of any future uploads or streams, hit the bell notification. And honestly, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.